Let us say hello to Erin Blanchfield, who had the big win. Hello, Erin. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Very excited about what you did on Saturday. Congratulations on the win. By the way, you are from what is the name of the town? What is it? Something Park. What is the name of?
Elmwood Park, New Jersey.
Yes. Did you know that there was another famous, um, resident of, no, not really resident, but a product, I should say, of Elmwood Park, New Jersey, in attendance on Saturday. Did you know that Liv Morgan of WWE was there to support you?
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Do you know who
Yeah.
she is?
No, I'm not really
She's
sure.
a big WWE star. She was just the champion over there. She too is from Elmwood Park and was at the event, her first UFC event. So she was telling me that she was very excited to see you in action and was very excited when you won. So a couple of Elmwood Park products doing big things on a big stage. When you got the call that you'd be fighting Molly at Madison Square Garden, very close to home for you, but also considering everything that she's done this year, what did you think?
Oh, I was super pumped about it. I got the call back in like August, so I had a lot of notice for it. But MSG is somewhere I wanted to fight for a really long time. I didn't really care who I fought, but it being Molly was even better because she was a pretty big name and pretty hyped up like in the moment. So I knew beating her at MSG would, yeah, it would just be amazing.
Considering how good you are, were you surprised that they were matching you up with her?
I mean, they put her in top 15, so she was number 15. So if she wanted to move up, she's gonna have to fight people higher. So I wasn't too surprised. I mean, stylistically, I don't think it was a good matchup for her, obviously at all. But I mean, if she wants to move up, you gotta fight up. So
Sure. I guess the reason why I asked that was because she had been on this role, and I think fighting, competition not as good as you. I thought maybe they would keep that going a little longer because she's so popular, and so I was surprised when they put you up against her because you are so good, and I felt like your skill set would be pretty tough for her. So that's why I was a little bit surprised. That's why I asked that.
yeah, I mean, I was definitely a little surprised too. I wasn't sure who they were gonna ask me to fight next. And when they asked me to fight Molly, yeah, I definitely was a little bit of a surprise. Like you said, like stylistically, and she's kind of on a good run. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe she was asking for somebody higher up in the rankings. I'm not sure what she was thinking on her part, but I think it was a great fight for me.
How was it at MSG? Fighting there, being a part of it all, being backstage, all that stuff.
It was great. I loved being able to have all my family and friends there. I knew a bunch of people that were going. I saw some of them while I was walking out and when I was walking back after the fight. So that was awesome. I mean, fighting against Molly, I definitely got some boos, which wasn't that cool, but honestly, it was just motivating to get that win even more. So yeah, it was awesome.
You weren't surprised though, right, about the booze?
No, I wasn't surprised at all because I knew how popular Molly was, and there's a lot of I knew British fans would come out to see her. So I wasn't surprised about the booze. Um, but yeah, I mean, I definitely it was my first time ever getting booed, so
Uh,
I feel like I kind of yeah, it was definitely a new experience, and something that I knew was bound to come at some point in fighting. So yeah, I feel like I handled it really well, and it kind of gave me a little extra push to get that win.
how was the energy in there? It seemed incredible, like to just be a part of it and to walk out. And the fans came early; they were there from the get go. What was it like just being a part of that?
That was really cool. I feel like it was probably the biggest crowd I fought in front of because I fought at 269, but I was like earlier on the card, so like the arena wasn't as packed yet. But this was definitely the most like packed arena I've ever fought in. I could hear the crowd and kind of get that energy from it. So I really liked that. That was cool.
Early on, when you were raining the elbows down, I was like, all right, they're probably going to let this go a little longer because it seems like she's at least trying to get out. But then at one point, it was getting a little uncomfortable, and I was wondering, okay, all right, well, like, what are we doing here, and how long are they going to let this go? And eventually, you transitioned to the submission. But while you were doing that, I mean, I didn't count how many elbows you threw. It looked like a lot. Were you thinking the same thing? Like, what more do I have to do here? She's not getting out of this.
Pretty much because I got to the crucifix position very quickly, and I was punching a lot because she was kind of keeping her head close. So it was a little bit hard to get elbows. At one point, I was able to create a little distance and elbow her, but I remember punching and just being like, she was moving still, like she was bucking. So I, like in retrospect, I can see why I didn't stop it. But I remember in the moment being like, how many times can I like
Yeah.
punch her unanswered before they could stop this fight? I mean, like I know she was like kind of okay, but I mean, I saw her face grimacing. She was kind of making a little bit of noises. I was hitting her a lot. as hard as I could from that position. So I do remember thinking like, how many times can like is this even like allowed? Like, is he gonna almost like get in trouble for like letting me just like hit her this many times? But then she was moving, and then I could see the submission opportunity, and I kind of could tell that he just wasn't going to stop it from what I was doing. So I had to just transition. She kind of defended the first one well. I went back to the crucifix, and then the Kimura came again, and that one I knew was in.
By the way, how hard was it to keep her in the crucifix position? Like, was she close to getting out, or was that never in danger?
She wasn't. No, I mean, like when I first got it, it felt super solid. I was hitting her a lot. At one point, she kind of got her arm free, and I can hear the crowd start like screaming. And I was like, I knew I could put her right back in it immediately. I remember almost kind of like laughing in my own head. They were like, ah, and I was like, bro, she's not safe at all. So I remember getting the position right back where I needed it to be. And I knew honestly it was kind of up to me whether I wanted to try to maybe posture and get more elbows in, or if I just wanted to transfer to the submission. I didn't really feel like there was any danger of her like getting out from my position completely.
The way you're speaking about this, it sounds like you were in complete control. Like I could go this route, I could go that route, and then eventually, when, like you said, with the submission, I was worried that she wouldn't tap, and that because she's so tough and so proud, and that something gruesome would happen. Were you starting to think the same?
Yes, I remember even before the fight thinking I was probably gonna have to like choke her like unconscious or something like that. If I didn't think she would tap from like an armbar or even like a Kimura or something like that. But in the fight, it was just so there, and I didn't. And I knew that I had the position in so tight. I was almost waiting to see if she would let it pop because I know like I've popped other people's shoulders before, so I know what it felt like. And she let it get pretty close. Like I knew if I cranked it anymore, I definitely would have like dislocated. So I was definitely prepared to like dislocate her arm, and then the ref probably would have had to stop it, maybe
Dang.
between rounds or something. But then she tapped. Uh, she let it go a little bit, but she tapped pretty early enough.
I have to say, like you're a pretty soft spoken person, mild mannered person. The brushing of the shoulders was quite the move. Was that something you planned on doing, or did it just happen in the moment?
It's funny. It's something I've definitely talked about before, but I didn't plan on doing it in the fight. But it was just kind of like honestly a very like natural reaction. Like I said, I felt in control of the fight the whole time, and I knew that that submission was super locked in. And once I got off of it, I was like, it was honestly it was easy. So it was kind of like my natural reaction.
And what did that signify? Like, why did you do that?
I don't know. I mean, there wasn't any particular reason. I think that's just kind of how I express myself in the moment. Some people like scream, they jump on the cage. For me, it was just like chucking it off my shoulder. Like it was kind of like an easy day in the office, I guess you could say.
Ain't no thing. Ain't no thing. And so, all right. So that's a big time win. That's a high profile win. How far are we from that top contender conversation, do you feel?
I mean, I feel like it depends on how where I move in the rankings after this fight. I'd like to get into the top 10, maybe fight someone in the top 10, and then from top 10, top 5, and then like that top title fight. I'm not exactly sure what the time frame could be because you can't really plan that out completely. But if I keep this win streak going, it would be sooner rather than later.
Yeah. So, well, like right now, what are you? I don't really.
I
125.
was number 12. I
You're
think
number
going into the
12.
fight.
Oh yeah, you're for sure gonna jump in there. So you think like a top 10 to 5 and then a 5 to 1? So maybe like two more?
Uh, I mean, maybe a top 10 to 5 is still a big jump. So maybe, I don't know, maybe a couple more. I guess it also depends on how you win too. If I
Yeah.
keep having performances like I had Saturday, then it could definitely happen in two. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm not too worried about planning exactly how many fights. I would like to get some more experience. I'd like to get even like maybe just like a main event fight to get a 5 round fight before I fight for a title. But yeah, so I'm not too worried about the exact amount of fights.
How do you like on a Monday? How do you process all of this? You just won at Madison Square Garden, one of the biggest UFC events of all time. Certainly in terms of gate, one of the biggest events of all time. I think top 5 against a very popular fighter, and there were all these huge names on the card. Like on this Monday, what do you do do you sit back and be like, holy crap, that just happened 2 days ago? I'm from New Jersey. You're like a 30-minute drive from MSG or 45-minute drive, something like that. It's nothing. How are you processing all of this?
I mean, I feel like that night I couldn't really, like yesterday morning, it definitely kind of sunk in a little bit that I just did that. And, you definitely get a little bit emotional, but, I mean, it's something I've always wanted to do. I'm really happy I was able to do it. And I'm just excited to see what else can come from it.
Did you watch the first UFC at MSG card in 2016? That was
Oh, I
Conor
definitely
versus
did.
Eddie Alvarez.
Yes. Yeah, I did. I watched it.
Do you remember where you were? I mean, that was 6 years ago. So you were what, 17?
I was 17. I think my coach had like a party and he like invited everybody over to come watch it. And I remember watching because it was like a huge deal, so especially like here because we're super close to New York, so it becoming legal in New York and watching that fight. Yeah, I remember thinking how I wanted to be a UFC fighter so bad already then and for a couple of years, and I already kind of I was 17, so I knew another year I can start fighting MMA. So watching that was definitely motivation for me and kind of gave me that dream of fighting in MSG.
A year ago this time, I asked Glover Teixeira about his friend Alex Pereira, and I was like, all right, what are we talking about in a year? And he said, we're going to be talking about him versus Izzy, and he obviously thought that he would beat Izzy. What are we talking about regarding you in November of 2023?
I think in a year, probably either having a fight against someone in the top five or have just winning a fight against someone in the top five, something that realm.
Okay. I can't wait to see it all unfold. I feel like your prediction is going to come true. Congrats on the win. Very impressive stuff. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
There she is, Erin Blanchfield of Elmwood Park, New Jersey. Yes, also the hometown of Liv Morgan, who was in attendance, and she told me that she loved her first UFC experience.